Welcome back to Climate Voters Tonight. We're going to give folks about 10 seconds to get settled in, and then we're going to get started. All right, welcome back to Climate Voters Tonight. Another 2 weeks have flown by, and it's been a busy time for climate and politics. You may also have noticed that I have changed my background. Unfortunately, due to some technical difficulties, our normal green screen is not working. So please bear with me as we transition to this brick. Tonight, we're going to cover the top headlines in climate and the government appropriations process, share an update on some recent events in New Hampshire, and leave you with a special segment about climate politics abroad and what lessons it might have for the US. Let's dive in. All right, first, the headlines. As you probably know, the government is likely headed into a shutdown. First, you've probably heard about the potential for a federal government shutdown as Congress has not yet passed spending bills. Each year, the appropriations process determines how the government allocates funds. Since the House of Representatives has not yet agreed upon spending proposals, it seems the government is headed for a shutdown. We're advocating for prioritized climate and clean energy funding in these spending bills. Plus, we want to ensure that the federal government is funded and fully operating. You can take action now at the link on screen and in the comments to express your support for federal climate and clean energy funds. You can also check out a virtual rally we hosted yesterday featuring Representative DeLauro focused on appropriations and the government shutdown. Tune in at the link in the comments. Just last week, Pennsylvania's Governor Josh Shapiro announced that the state is implementing automatic voter registration for all eligible residents. That's great news, and it means Pennsylvania has joined a group of 23 states that have automatic voter registration. Now, if you obtain a new driver's license or ID card in Pennsylvania and are eligible to vote, you're automatically taken through the process to get registered and don't need to take additional steps. EDF Action PAC was proud to support Shapiro when he ran for governor last year. Thanks to all the EDF Action members who volunteered for his campaign. Clearly, it made a difference. A new Northwestern report shows electric vehicle transitions will save lives. According to Inside Climate News, a new study came out last week from Northwestern University showing the impacts of electric vehicles on health and safety. The study shows that electrifying just 30% of all light and heavy-duty vehicles in the lower Great Lakes region could save more than 1,000 lives and reduce healthcare costs every year. Check out more details at the link in the comments. There you have it, folks. Even small adjustments to our vehicle fleet could make a big difference in the Midwest. The Seafood Act, or the Science-Based Equitable Aquaculture Food Act, would lay the groundwork for sustainable, inclusive seafood farming in the United States. A coalition of chefs who work with seafood recently flew in to Washington, D.C. to advocate for this important legislation. We caught up with one, Chef Jason Fullilove, and chatted about why this bill is important for the long-term sustainability of the seafood industry. You can catch our conversation on EDF Action's Instagram. We'll drop the link in the comments. And finally, in headlines, it's hard to believe that 2024's presidential campaign season is already underway, but yesterday was the second Republican presidential debate. The candidates discussed increasing fracking, even though it's harmful to the planet. Many candidates on stage also seemed to not be supportive of manufacturing electric vehicles and moving our clean energy transition forward. We know we need to take bold steps to address the climate crisis, and the presidential debate did not acknowledge our nation's urgent call for action. We live tweeted updates last night, so check out EDF Action on Twitter to see more. Moving on. Over the past month, we've been spending quite a bit of time in New Hampshire. That's not only because we love the Granite State, much as we do, but also because New Hampshire is at the center of the political universe. And thanks to the Clean Energy Plan, it could also be at the center of the clean energy universe. We hosted two events, one with Senator Maggie Hassan and another with Representative Chris Pappas, where we heard from small business owners, municipal leaders, and other Granite Staters about how the Clean Energy Plan is helping them. Let's check out the highlights.
Huge achievement for Congress of the United States and for the people of the United States. $369 billion of investment. And what's it's really significant and actually probably more than expected. So over the last year, that original $369 billion of investment has sparked billions more of private investment. So we're now talking about a total investment package of almost $2 trillion over these next 10 years.
And it's a very urgent conversation for people here in New Hampshire, across the country, around the planet. We know we are facing an existential threat in terms of climate change. It is at a crisis level, and we see evidence of it each and every day, especially through these summer months. We've got ocean temperatures that have never been higher, including in the North Atlantic, right off our coastline. We have seen record flooding events across our border in Vermont, but even some serious floods here in New Hampshire in communities like Alton that have had their local infrastructure disrupted and destroyed by these storm events, and obviously the fires, tragic fires in places like California and Hawaii, but also north of the border in Canada, which has impacted our air quality on days here in the Northeast. So the evidence of it is all around us, and the cost of doing nothing far exceeds the cost of the investments that we are making in the Inflation Reduction Act and hopefully subsequent legislation to make sure that we are unleashing a renewable energy economy in a way that supports our needs to diversify our energy sources, to fight climate change, and also policies that will help mitigate the impacts for our communities.
We're founded on principles of sustainability and also kindness, like not only for our community but for the earth as well. So being focused on sustainability has been something that's been not only a passion of ours, but it's something as a business person, it's actually been fiscally responsible for us to do.
With every passing year, the importance of us really investing in and building a clean energy future becomes clearer and clearer. All around New Hampshire, we see the impacts of climate change. Over the last 5 and 6 years in particular, I hear about it pretty much everywhere I go in New Hampshire, from every sector, whether it's farmers saying, I no longer have a predictable slow thaw in the late winter, early spring to produce the volume of maple sap that I need to make maple syrup, to ski mountain owners who are really worried about their capacity to keep their business model, but really also out on the seacoast, people talking to me about the flooding and the erosion that we're seeing. We are seeing power outages, we are seeing flooding, we are seeing severe weather, and we are seeing the impact not only on our beautiful state and our communities, but on our economy too. We've created a really new, vibrant sector in clean energy manufacturing back here in the United States. We're seeing a level of investment here in the United States that is really important for the effort to combat climate change, but it's also really good for our economy.
Right here, we're at a public works facility, a new one.
Yeah.
And it, of course, uses electric power. And we, over a few hundred years away, we have a gas to energy plant which mines the methane from the landfill and burns it to create electric energy. So what we're doing is trying to create a microgrid right in this area by buying some lines from Eversource and use the energy generated over here at the methane to energy plant to provide electricity for this facility and beyond.
New Hampshire is the center of the political universe. EDF Action is committed to being on the ground in the center of the political conversation in the state, and I'm pleased that we've got an organizer and boots on the ground here in a really important state to elevate the conversation. I believe that New Hampshire can also be the center of the clean energy universe in this country. And we're going to learn today about all of the steps that the city of Nashua and some of its partners in the business community are taking in order to help accelerate that transition and to take advantage of the singular piece of legislation that was the Inflation Reduction Act, which only passed thanks to the help and hard work of heroes in the Senate like Senator Maggie Hassan.
Moving on. Just last week, the White House announced a new exciting federal program. The American Climate Corps will support and unleash critical talent into the workforce to help advance environmental goals and create a lasting impact. The Corps is a workforce training and service initiative, so it will provide skill-based training to ensure the next generation of leaders are ready to address clean energy, climate resilience, environmental justice, and conservation. The government has already supported Climate Corps programs in 5 states: California, Colorado, Maine, Michigan, and Washington. And now the state-based programs are also expanding to Arizona, Utah, Minnesota, North Carolina, and Maryland. With expanded access to high-quality training programs, climate leaders and workers will be prepared to address this crisis and help us pave the way forward. We're grateful to the Biden administration for enacting this new program and continuing to make clean energy and climate justice priorities. Check out EDF's statement on the announcement at the link in the comments. And finally, we're going to leave you with a special segment about climate politics abroad tonight. Of course, as the advocacy partner of the Environmental Defense Fund, we here at EDF Action focus our work on U.S. politics. But that doesn't mean that we're immune to the ever-changing trends in the climate movement internationally. So tonight, we're going to take you to Vienna, Austria, where 2 weeks ago, activists held a quote-unquote climate strike to demand more climate action from the Austrian government. We hope you find the segment interesting and helpful as we continue to think about the ways we can most successfully build political power for lasting climate solutions here in the United States. Let's have a watch.
In the ground, keep it in the ground, keep it in the ground, keep it in the ground. Ganz autofrei, der Typ wird nicht vorbei. Ganz autofrei.
Es ist heiß.
It's hot. It's getting hotter and hotter. There are more storms, more natural disasters, especially in the Arctic. But we're all very motivated.
Es wird wieder gestreikt.
Citizens on strike once again. Residents of 11 Austrian cities marched for climate action on Friday in a demonstration organized by Fridays for Future. Demonstrators criticized politicians over what they described as a lack of strategies for the fight against the climate crisis. For 25 years, we've been saying, if you don't do something now, climate change will become unstoppable. 25 years later, we're still not doing enough. We're nowhere near meeting our climate goals from the Paris Agreement. It's totally the opposite situation to right-wing extremism, which we love to sweep under the rug here in Austria. We can't sweep climate change under the rug. It's coming, and the less we do to combat it, the worse it will be. It doesn't do us any good to stick our heads in the sand. We have to do something.
Kann man nicht wegdiskutieren. Der kommt und wenn man nichts tut, kommt er umso schlimmer.
Einfach mehr Leute auf.
I just want to make more people aware that this is a huge problem and that our politicians aren't doing anything to combat climate change.
Klimawandel.
Am meisten
Among the 11 Austrian cities that saw marches on Friday, it was Vienna that recorded the most demonstrators, with organizers claiming nearly 20,000 participants. I think that these strikes and demonstrations are incredibly important because it's this moment where civil society, where people can come together and feel each other's presence. Since 2019, we've seen people come together, even during the pandemic, and it's putting the topic in the center of the political conversation here in Austria. We can all feel it. So yeah, I think it's extremely important. Fridays for Future has been around for 5 years, Global 2000 for over 20. I myself have been taking to the streets for years. It's the fight of our lives. We won't stop. We have to keep fighting because we have no alternative.
Gestreikt wurde unter anderem auch in
Demonstrations also took place in Bregenz, Graz, Linz, and Klagenfurt, among other cities. A key demand for Fridays for Future? That the government holds a national climate catastrophe summit.
häufiger werdenden Extremwetterereignisse.
Ja, ich kann jetzt von unserer Schule sprechen, zum Beispiel, dass wir sind Straßenseite.
I'll give my school as an example. We're both street-facing and south-facing. For the first 2 weeks of classes, it was so hot on the south-facing side that it was difficult to teach. On the street-facing side, if you opened the windows to cool it down a little, it was so loud that students couldn't hear what I was saying. You kind of have to choose between the lesser of two evils. And that's just kind of the reality of our everyday in the school. I'm 41, but honestly, I've never lived through something quite like this in my life.
Einfach weil es unaushaltbar war, einfach die Sachen wie Waldbrände, die man miterlebt hat. Bin schon 41, aber solche Zustände habe ich noch nicht erlebt eigentlich in meiner Wahrnehmung.
All right, that will do it from us tonight. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks. Climate Voters Unite.